Hello. What's going on, Udi? How are you?
I'm well. I've got a special sexy voice today so you can hear.
Oh no, hope you're feeling all right.
I honestly have no idea. I had 3 kids coughing for a couple of days. As usually happens now, the 2 dads have it. But it's better today than it was yesterday. So I'm slowly recovering, but I didn't want to miss this.
Good. Well, thank you for being a part of it. And hello to the 56 other folks that have joined, 57 so far. And DG, I don't know if you're on or if Maria's on, but if you guys want to go ahead and unmute yourselves as well. We'll get started here in a minute. As folks are joining, we have we're using Slido today, which is super exciting. So I put a link in the calendar invite, and I'll share my screen here in a second. And I'll go through the housekeeping stuff in a minute, but obviously we're doing this in kind of a raw format where anyone can unmute. So I think just to keep things moving, it'd be awesome if you could submit questions on Slido. And then we can see them. You can upvote questions, and we'll be able to kind of just get through a lot more, I think, together.
Every time.
All right. Looks like DG's on. Hey, Dave.
Hey,
How are you, man?
what's happening?
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nap time over here. I might talk a little quiet, but it's okay.
No problem.
I love how you use your children for excuses, DG.
Where are you? In the private office, the private suite?
I locked myself in the dining room. My husband is with the kids upstairs.
It's good.
We'll just wait for a few more folks to join. Thanks to the 143, 4 of you. And Maria is our third co-host for today. Just waiting for her to join, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Wait. I'm on.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Joining. Max, my goodness. Amazing.
I stopped in to say hi to my friends. What's going on?
So many special guests.
I see Megan. I see Udi.
Hey, Max.
How's it going?
All good.
Is Maria and Dave on yet?
Dave's on.
I see Gaetano.
Max?
There's Gaetano. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
DG, woo!
Oh, hey, what's up, Megan?
Morning.
How's Trisha? Oh,
Hey, Trisha.
hey.
This is a powerhouse.
LA.
I'm so excited. Why don't we go ahead and get started? There's Maria. How are you?
Hi, sorry. If I was supposed to be on early, I didn't know.
No,
Sorry, I
you're
missed
good.
it.
You're good. Let me go ahead and tee this up, and we can dive right in. So I had this idea a while, 2 weeks ago, mainly because as things were starting to change very quickly. I think if you were following Stuart Butterfield on Twitter last night, I thought that post was pretty indicative of kind of how fast it's been evolving every day. And honestly, I got on the phone and started texting, a lot of folks in my network asking, hey, what are you guys seeing? Is outbound slowing down? Or what does your lead flow look like? Are you guys fully work from home now, or how's that going? And what I noticed is not everyone, or I felt very fortunate to be able to text some of these folks and get some responses, but I appreciate that, being able to kind of have a collective brain trust where we can have conversation like this, out in the open, is rare, and I think very needed in times like this. So this was the idea, and last week was awesome to have Max on the call, as well as Ryan Benici from G2, and today, I mean, superstar guests all across the board. But specifically want to call out Udi from Gong, who's on the call. Thanks, Udi, for joining. DG from Privy, Dave Gerhardt, and Maria Pergolino from ActiveCampaign, as well as a slew of other CMOs, as you saw, who jumped on. So super excited to have everyone on. Quick housekeeping. So my gut when running a marketing program was, once we kind of had this idea, was, hey, let's set up like the HubSpot form. Let's do a landing page. Let's kind of get everything organized. And that didn't feel like that was in the spirit of what this really was. And so purposefully, this was like a Google Form sign up to a very bloated calendar invite to a Zoom call that has now 232 people on it. So I just want to ask, just from a housekeeping perspective, if you don't mind muting, unless you had a question, but ideally we can put all the questions through Slido, which I'll share the screen here in a second. The link to that is in the calendar invite. You'll see the link here on the screen when I start sharing it. But this is a great way to just share your questions and keep us kind of moving along in the presentation. So with that, before we dive into to the questions, just want to start with a quick question to the panelists. How are you? how are things? I think in the last, every week as things are sort of changing, just want to check in on sort of the state of the union from your perspective on the business, and how's COVID kind of affecting you?
Maria, why don't you go first?
Yeah, hi, this is Maria Pergolino, CMO at ActiveCampaign. I think the big thing that has hit me is that we're in I know a lot of us are making parallels to 08 and 09. Some of us are thinking about situations like 9/11. I think this is the first time that marketers are really hitting two things at once. We're dealing with a pandemic that is hitting us globally, and for our business, we serve customers in 160 different countries. That's more than countries that have McDonald's. So the global nature of it is something we're super aware of. And that's causing people to work from home and not have access to things. And that's a very real situation that as marketers we have to address. But it's combined with a second situation, which has a different time frame to it, which is an economic situation that requires a whole different set of plans and planning. And so I think we're trying to figure out both, and how do we adjust to both, and obviously not be tone deaf and react properly to this terrible disease, but at the same time make the right decisions that are going to help us longer term, and not just us, help our customers for the longer term as we deal with what looks to be a pretty global economic crisis.
DG.
Everything's fine. Next. No, I think
I start off super heavy, and then you're like, no, it's great.
no, it's I think it's tough. I mean, for me, just personally for me, this is the first like real, economic and world crisis that I've had to work through as a leader. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other CMOs out there who have been through 2000, 2001, 2008. And so, it's interesting to see that from a business challenge perspective. But I think, so I kind of have a unique spot now where we're focused on e-commerce. And so this is actually a great time for a lot of e-commerce businesses, but it's also a terrible time for a lot of e-commerce businesses. And so like we're seeing customers there's still demand. Like we actually had our best week for traffic and trials ever was last week for some reason. And I think that's probably because everybody was home. But I think there's a lot of other industries out there, the slices of e-commerce, that are struggling. And so, we're making some conscious decisions to cut back in a bunch of places where, where we've had to, like, you know, we're leaving a paid agency, and we're just going to bring some of that in house for 3 months, not because it's going to be forever, but I think everybody seems to be in the position of like, nobody knows, right? You can look at what's happening, watch the news, read the news. Like, we can't pretend to know as marketers, nor can your CEO or your CFO, because like the whole government doesn't have any idea what's going on right now. And so we're really trying to take it day by day, but doing everything that we can to like cut back on things that are not working right now. Now's not the time to go and really, you know, blow out those channels. And so we're taking it day by day, but I think we're going to try to stay where we are for the next probably 30 to 90 days and see where that gets us. Like, we're not making any additional new hires other than was in the plan, and just feels like the right thing to do right now.
Udi, what do you think?
Hey folks, Udi here. Apologize for the crazy voice today. I hope it doesn't turn out that I'm the poster boy for Corona today, but been having a sore throat for a couple of days. So at Gong, a little bit similar to what DG said, we actually saw a I think record high last week for a lot of our digital activity. We had a bunch of new demo requests, several big deals actually expedited as a result of the situation. For those who don't know, Gong sells a revenue intelligence platform which uses AI to help sales teams manage themselves better and close more deals. And while certainly there are going to be some of our customers that unfortunately go out of business or have to downscale, a lot of our customers are experiencing working remotely for the first time. A lot of our customers have field sales teams who can no longer meet on sites or forced to work like an inside sales teams, and they don't know how to do that. And their managers are trying to figure out how to manage a team in this new situation. So there's definitely opportunities there, as well as some potential downside. Fully agree with DG. I mean, nobody knows the full impact that this is going to have. Our CFO has been working overtime trying to do all the fancy math, but the truth of it is, of course, that we don't know. So we have several scenarios we're preparing for. Just to end this intro, I'll say that, you know, in one sentence, our philosophy in this time is it hasn't changed. The meta philosophy hasn't changed, which is always looking, what do our customers need from us most right now, and how can we do the best job of supplying them with what they need in the fastest and best and friendliest way. It just happens to be that those things that the customers need most right now have changed in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So we are quickly adapting. I'm happy to go into more details later in both product and marketing and other departments to provide our customers what they need most right now.
Yeah, super interesting. Just I think a quick update on our side, week on week. I think the thing that we're seeing is some of the verticals that we've targeted that have been hardest hit, we're seeing the natural slowdown. But then some of the verticals, like perhaps the mortgage industry or a few of these others, which are actually, I hate to put it this way, but they're standing to benefit from the economic part of this uncertainty. You know, we're seeing expansion. We're seeing more folks using the product more, buying more seats. We're seeing new leads kind of generated in those verticals. So I think we're in this kind of like moment where we're trying to figure out where should we refocus our efforts in Q2 while we finish Q1 strong, which, you know, for those of us on calendar, you know, it's definitely an interesting time. The last thing I'll say that's new is the business is looking to marketing as a leading indicator for what's to come in Q2. And so they're asking us questions in terms of pipe creation, in terms of, you know, web traffic. What are these kind of leading indicators to what's going to be happening downstream as we make some of the business planning decisions afterwards? I think it's like, if you're a CMO right now, like you're getting a lot of questions that go have so much more of a heightened sense of responsibility than even just hitting our targets. But let's jump into Slido. So I'm going to quickly share my screen here. Hopefully y'all can see it. You can ask questions by going to slido.com using that code. If you happen to have a QR code reader, you can use that too. Or using just hashtag CMO office hours on Slido. But 15 of you have upvoted this question, so this is clearly the place to start. How's everyone on the panel thinking about paid right now? Are you looking to reduce your paid spend? DG, you talked a little bit about bringing some resources in-house. How are you thinking about paid budget overall?
Yeah, we're reducing some channels. We're pulling some stuff back, but it's really funny because we spent this week kind of going through a bunch of different scenarios, like a couple models for the next couple months. And where we ended up from a budget standpoint is we ended up cutting some paid budget from Facebook and AdWords that we should have probably just been cut anyway. And it's like really interesting. It was a forcing function to be like, well, why are we not already doing this? And so there's a couple like for us, it's keywords that are a little bit more expensive, a little bit lower converting. And out of the 3 products that we're selling right now, number 1 is not a priority. Excuse the screaming in the background. and so we're probably going to cut back 20, 30 grand on AdWords and Facebook, but we're actually doubling down on Shopify, which is where a lot of our demand comes, and they have an advertising channel through the Shopify App Store. And so we've seen a lot of opportunity there, and we're actually going to spend more on that channel moving forward. So I think it's a little bit of cutting back on some stuff that maybe we should have cut anyway, trimming some of that fat. We're going to pause on an agency for a couple months that we've been using and just bring that stuff in house. Outside of that, I don't see a ton of changes other than the budget that we've already committed. I think it's going to be harder to ask for more in the next 3 months as we see that stuff, but most things are staying the same.
Cool. Maria, do you want to?
This is Maria. Yeah, just to I just tried to pull up some real numbers. So there's obviously, and I agree with everything Udi and Dave are saying about watching spend, looking at the next couple months, we're seeing similar strength in our trials and our deals, but being aware that there's a real economic situation happening and that could change. But right now we are, a little context here will probably help. We sell often to SMBs, so we can scale up to enterprise, but we're coming close to 100,000 customers, and some of them pay $100 a year, some are paying a couple $100,000 a year, but often it's an SMB. So our cost of acquisition is lower is kind of the big point here. But on average, to drive somebody for a trial, we pay at the end of last year, we were paying about $81. Right before we went into this crisis, we had gotten some efficiency and we're paying about $62 for a trial. That has dropped in this time without losing pace to about $42 a trial. So the cost of acquisition is significantly lower for us on the digital side. We've seen some of our competitors turn off ads, which has helped that. And then we're just seeing I think people just have some time to do trials. So I would just be careful about what you pause, because we're seeing some good opportunity here as well.
Super interesting. Udi, what about you?
Yeah, so some things are a bit similar, some things are a bit different here at Gong. Here's how we're thinking about digital. The top line is we're doubling down on digital, and we're doing a few things. First, I'm fortunate to be at a company who got the latest round of funding with perfect timing just a few months ago. So we have excellent runway, and we're not yet in the position that I know some of my friends here are, of having to take deep measures into cost savings. We're not there right now. I'm, again, very lucky to have my full Q2 budget available to me without any cuts at this point. Here's how I'm thinking about it. In the best scenario I can think about it right now, the same budget I had planned for digital spending will get me more than I had planned in Q2, because several of you have dropped out of the race right now. You have less to spend, so I'm expecting bids to go down. So that's my best case scenario. I'm actually expecting to get more out of my digital marketing. To make sure that we actually give it the best chance of succeeding, I literally hired this week a new digital marketer. I can't reveal him yet until he makes that status change, because he's currently a CMO at a different company. But you'll see next week when he updates his status. So I've got a very senior digital marketer joining my team next week. 2, I've got hundreds of thousands of field event money. Thank you, Max, for that return coming back to me, and I'm putting that into digital marketing. So I'm enlarging my digital marketing spend to every last cent. I'm also letting go of agencies, not as a cost-cutting measure, but in order to support the new hire that I'm bringing that's going to manage all the digital marketing in-house. So that's what I'm hoping will work. I think digital is going to become a lot more productive. Eventually, it will also become competitive again, right? Once everyone turns up their budgets, bids are going to be high again. It's going to be competitive, but hopefully by then I'll have built the muscle to get this even better than it's working right now.
Totally. Yeah, so what I'm hearing from the group is both we're doing less of the things that we shouldn't be doing anyway. And with that, there's opportunity. Even with everything kind of being the way it is, there's opportunity for us to kind of reallocate resources or even lean into channels that might still be productive for us. And in fact, could even be more productive. Really quickly, there's a question I want to get to on work from home because DG, I got to ask. I know you've talked about this quite a bit. Like we're humans. We're not just marketing robots, and we're working from home. We have kids home from school, and life and work right now is blending. And us as marketers, I think we have an opportunity to help kind of speak into that culture, help create new cultural norms kind of within our organization. So I wanted to just ask from your perspective. I know this is something you're passionate about. How should people be thinking on the call who are now working from home either for the first time, or they're being asked to sort of help extend the company culture into this kind of new remote work reality that we're in?
I mean, I don't think anybody has that answer, right? Like, I think it's my team, our company's been home for 2 weeks, and it's been an adjustment for everybody because we're not a remote company. And so to take people that like literally are all in an office on a Wednesday, and then they're told like, hey, everybody's going to go home, and there's no like plan for when we're going to come back. I think everybody's just kind of been taking it day by day. I think the thing that's been that's been interesting to me is like it's kind of changed. Everybody has different days. So like, you know, my wife and I are both work and we're both home, and we have both kids here. And so like what that has meant is basically like hop on for a Zoom call and then hop off for a couple hours. And I'm also lucky enough to be in a position where I have an amazing team that's doing a lot of the the day-to-day work. This would be much harder for me if I was like trying to write 1,500 words or create a deck. And so it happens to work out really well that I have a great team to do it. But I've also been like super surprised by and impressed by the fact that like this is actually the tightest our team has felt, and it's a new team, so that's a piece of it. But like for some reason, like we're clicking better, we're open to new ideas, we're trying new things, and I think it's because like this crazy thing is happening in the world, and everybody knows that like the traditional playbook doesn't really matter anymore, and we're all trying to figure this out on the fly. And like something as simple as like we start every day now at 9:30 with a video stand-up, which is not the most groundbreaking thing. Like most teams do that in person, but something about that quick like catch up with everybody every single day, and then bumping one-on-ones up with the people on my team to do them twice a week as opposed to once, just to like stay tighter. For some reason that's made us like a better unit, and we've been able to like make changes really fast and just kind of roll with what's coming at us. And so like I'm kind of texting my CEO right now being like, hey, how about we just get rid of the office, and then I have 50 grand a month back in the marketing budget, and we can call this even, and we'll be good for the future.
Totally. That's awesome. Maria or Udi, anything y'all want to add on the work from home side?
Yeah, I don't have the challenge of children, and the wonderfulness, but also challenge of them working from home with children. Careful how I say that. But I think for everybody on this call, it's a big weight that you're carrying with your teams, and I think care about yourself. I appreciate this, and some of the people on this call I've reached out to in hard moments. You know, I had a call with one of my team members who was out of toilet paper and didn't know what to do. I had a call with one of my team members who lived with a healthcare worker, but also his parent was ill and didn't know that, couldn't then go help their parent because they were worried they would infect them. And I think, I don't think these are unique situations. I think everybody on this call is dealing with that. And I think it takes a toll on us. So like, I think of all of you, and I count on all of you, because I think that just personally, I'm feeling a weight that I haven't felt in some time. And then I think just one of the things that I've really changed is my engagement with skip meetings. I've been using, this may sound so goofy, but just like emoji polls, just to like kind of check in with how the team's doing. And when I can see somebody answering like where they might be struggling, That's how I've been prioritizing the skip meetings that I'm doing, and trying to stay connected to the team more frequently that way. I haven't upped the one-on-ones with my direct reports, and the only thing that's kind of changed there is I will pick up the phone more frequently and just like call, surprise, here's Maria. Yeah, just trying to connect more one-on-one with the team, and I think probably, and I think we're all working more, but I think there is some, like what we would have considered productivity loss, because I can't get, in my first 10 minutes of a call, I can't do anything other than like end up talking about the situation with whoever I'm with. Like every call it takes a little bit of time with that. I'm curious, Udi, if you're seeing similar.
Yeah, I think that to an extent, seeing a drop in productivity, especially for parents working at home with kids out of school, that's a given. I've heard in some of our departments, productivity is now estimated to be at about 75% of the norm, just because the working hours have changed. And I can share my own calendar, what I've done to manage my calendar and for my own need, and also to set an example for my team. I've blocked out a full lunch hour where I cook and feed my family. And then from 3 p.m., I no longer take meetings as of last week. From 3 p.m. until the end of the day, I relieve my husband, who's doing the homeschooling, from 8 to 3. And at 3 o'clock, I let him go and get some fresh air, and I take over the kids until the evening. If there's an urgent email or call, I'll take them later. But that's a new norm. I've found zero resistance from anyone, internal or external, to that new norm. And I think it also sets the example. I have team members also with 3 children at home, and I want them to keep their sanity. So I think another useful sort of framework to think about this, that we've started last week as a company, and we sort of propagate that through the team. We do weekly updates, and the acronym we use to cover the topics are HVO. So that's pretty easy to remember, where H is health, B is the business, and O is operations. So where do we stand on all those 3? We do a check-in. Is everyone and their family still healthy? Does anyone need help with anything? And what measures we're taking, and right now it's all at home, so it's a little bit easier than the time we were still sort of coming into the office part of the time. Business, what impact are we seeing on the business? Shameless self-plug here. We use Gong to get a very, very strong sort of indication of what's going on. We see daily stats of how people are talking about the situation, how often they're talking about budget freezes. What are we seeing on each of the conversion rates that matter to us, and how that's affecting our own operations. And that brings us to the O in HVO, which is operations. What are we doing right now that's changing? Maybe it'll be helpful if I share just a couple of sentences on that from the marketing perspective, since most of us here are marketers. Today, we went out with a press release. The title was Gong releases a customer relief package for sales teams. And we sort of summarized some of the things that we released over the course of the last 7 or 10 days, which include specific product updates that are now helping our customers work as remote teams and helping our field sales customers work as inside sales teams working from home. We released, I think, 4 different content packages between blog posts and ebooks that are full of tips for how to better manage sales teams working from home, and lots of stuff that our customers are finding super useful. We announced our virtual event, which was supposed to be an extension of our road show of Celebrate. So we covered 5 cities in the last few months. We're going to extend it to several more, but we decided to quickly turn that into a single virtual event that's happening on April 7th. Please sign up. It's free. So we announced that virtual event. We quickly onboarded within days onto a new virtual event platform that we've never used before. We built the entire event. We got the speakers. We got everything done, and we launched that earlier this week. We're at about 1,000 signups right now. So obviously there's demand for it, and people are excited. And the 4th thing that we're releasing next week, so I can't give you all the information on, it's a very cool sort of free little widget for our customers to help them celebrate successes and new deals now that they're out of the office and can't celebrate physically with the team. We're releasing something fun that's going to help everyone do that from home next week as well.
That's awesome. And Udi, a quick question on the chat. Which platform are you guys using for virtual events, if you don't mind
I
sharing?
was hoping no one asked me that. I think Russell is on this call. Russell, are you here?
Yeah, the new platform is called Hopin. It's a new kind of thing that's coming out of stealth.
Could you spell it out for folks?
Yeah, HOPIN. It might be HOP.in actually. But the cool thing about it is it's really interactive. Highly encourage folks to check it out.
Awesome. Thanks for that. All right, let's go back to Slido. There's actually two questions on here that I'm gonna try to group into one. The first is, what are the marketing channels that aren't being fully used yet? This person referenced push notifications on the website. That's been a game changer. And then Lyndall talked about content marketing as a potential replacement for in-person events. And I wanted to ask DG, because I saw your tweets this morning. Now, your point of view was, now's the time to really be doubling down on content, given kind of what's going on in the marketplace. Do you want to maybe just build on that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I think like if you can, I think the safest assumption you could make right now is that across the board, people aren't buying, right? Like, just it is what it is. Look at the market. So well, okay, well, if people aren't buying right now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to ever buy from you. And I think it just means you have to change where you're thinking about from a channel perspective. And so it might mean less direct response right now, but now is when I would go all in on content, right? And the reason why is because this is your opportunity. Like, buying today is all about getting people to know you, to like you, to trust you. And I think content is the way that you do that. If you do it at a good level, like I love what Udi and his team have been doing for a while now with content. I love the drift stuff, obviously. And I'm proud of what we're starting to do now at Privy. But I think the opportunity is to like go out and spend the next 3 to 6 months building an audience. Like, this is the time to build an audience for your brand. Whether you're selling something right now or not, it doesn't matter, because what's going to happen is if you're already selling something great, then you don't need it as much. But if you're not, you have the chance to build up an audience right now, so that in 6 months, when everybody gets their budget back and people can buy stuff again, or whenever that is, who are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to you, because they've been binging on your podcast. They've been watching all your videos. They've been getting all your emails. And so like, I think now is the perfect time to go out, build a new show for your brand. Just start an email, start a newsletter, start a new blog. Like, it's so easy. You don't have to go and do something like hire a team of 5 video people in an agency and do some crazy thing. Like, literally just start a podcast talking into your phone if you're an expert in your industry, and you can build an audience. And I think like, whether it's that basic scale, or maybe you do have the budget to go invest and make a show over the summer, to me, now is the time to focus on building an audience. And like, content is the one thing that I would 100% double down on if I had to pull back on everything else.
Plus one on everything DG just said. Here's how we're thinking about it. If, in some segments, and it might be your entire customer base right now, they're not buying anything, right? It's not necessarily applicable to everyone, but many of us, their entire market just went into a total freeze. Some of us were lucky, it's only some segment of the market. For that market, you can either do nothing and then start over again in 6 months or 9 months or whenever things really get back to normal, or you could work on your pipeline. And the obvious way to do that is what DG said, is working with content. Some other maybe less obvious ways that we're considering and starting to roll out. Give them a partial free version of your product if it's still useful at this time, but they just can't start a buying cycle. Give them a freemium version. If you don't have one, create one in a week. Create a freemium version of your product that they will start getting hooked on the value, assuming they can still find value in that. And if not, I'll give you another solution. But assuming they can still find value, this is the time to consider freemium if you haven't done so yet, giving a partial downgraded version of the product. So when you talk to them in 3 or 6 months, they're already fans of the product, and it's going to be a much easier conversation trying to get money out of them. A final addition to that, if your product doesn't provide value at this time to the customers that can't buy anything, create a free product, a free widget, a free template, a free cheat sheet, a free anything that they can use right now. It's easy in any field that you're in. Put your minds together. You can come up with free ideas of what will actually solve a problem that your customers are having right now. Give them that. They will remember that in 3 months when they're ready to buy something that you're selling. They will remember that you're the ones who helped them when they needed something like this.
It wouldn't be me if I didn't offer some like counter advice there too. So I know a lot of us have raced to get up some webinars and some digital content to start putting out content quickly. We went a little bit of the other way. We do about 200 like one-day events for our customers across the globe each year. We call them study halls. And what we realized is that the most important thing we can do right now, especially as we go into a hard economic time, is to make sure that we're retaining that base and we're offering, just great value to them. And so knowing that they couldn't participate now in that study hall, instead of racing and putting up a couple of virtual events or webinars, we have, I think it's probably 5 people full-time working on like, how do we have the most incredible digital study hall experience? We're not rushing it out the door. We're putting something in place that can benefit everybody. And so instead of that volume of content, like just what is one thing that is going to resonate with customers, that it's going to make them successful. And I think, for us, I think it's definitely the right path. It's offering them value, and it's something we'll be able to use long term as we acquire new customers as well.
Yeah.
I love that idea, because I think what's going to happen, I think there's a lot of, my guess is most of the people that are here are in B2B. I think there's going to be a race to, right now there's a race to move everything virtual, which is understandable because we all have to try to catch up on pipeline and we're canceling events. But like, I think what's going to happen is over the next 3 to 6 months, the market, we're all trying to sell to like slices of the same people. I think what's going to happen is people are just going to be so burnt out and so tired of those types of events that like just doing a Zoom call, is not going to be enough, and getting recordings and having people give their talks. And like oftentimes in B2B, we all kind of tend to interview the same 20 people over and over anyway. So, okay, hold on one second. I think the opportunity is to actually like do something crazy and rethink the whole thing. And so I love that from Maria's perspective, where like, I think whoever's going to win this, and I think I posted this on LinkedIn today, whoever's going to win this is the company that's going to like completely reinvent virtual events and create a ridiculous experience, not just try to replicate the online, like not try to just take the same speakers and plug them into an agenda. And I think that's how somebody's really going to win in B.
Yeah. Somebody posted something on LinkedIn about like, I'm going to totally butcher this, but like the next gen CMOs or something are going to be coming out of this time. And I interpreted that as like, we're really going to be challenged to rise above the noise as a function and figure out how we can stand out in a world where, to DG's point, I think to Maria, your point, volume may or may not be the answer, but like how we sort of like break through the noise and deliver value to customers or whatever it is that our business objectives are. That's kind of the winning strategy.
Yeah, but
just
like,
like
Anthony is also.
Can I say what? Oh,
go ahead.
You got us going now. I think that like the key thing that I'm trying to remember every day now is like, forget the old playbook. Like this is going to be a whole new world for the next 6 months at least, right? And so like the more you can just completely forget about what used to work and start thinking about, okay, if I was given like a new job and you said, hey Dave, here's your new job. You got to be CMO. Here's the team you got. Here's the budget you got. Here are the circumstances. What playbook would you go and run? I think you have to think like that versus like, well, we've always done this and we've always done that. Like that's where you're not going to grow during this time.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to plug into what Anthony started by saying, yeah, this is a new challenge for many of us, but this is the absolute best time in history for us to be marketers dealing with the situation. Think about marketers just 50 years ago. If they couldn't do field events and they didn't have millions of dollars to do a Super Bowl or other TV commercial, they could shut down marketing. What could they do? They had literally nothing. They had TV and radio. That was digital marketing 50 years ago. Look at where we are now. We have so many channels, we can't even count them. This is the absolute best time. You could use $10 a day and still do digital marketing. So I can't think of a better time to be stuck in this situation, which is unfortunate. No argument about it. But this is the best time to be stuck with this problem than ever before.
Sure. Cool. Maria, is there something?
Maria, you wanted to add something?
I was just going to say, this is not like right now is not the end game. This is the ramp. This is the runway. Like the harder times, like a lot of us are still closing deals, have the same, or growing pipeline. I think it's fair to say for most of us, it's going to get harder. And so the other thing with not racing to that answer, taking the time, doing something bigger, is that I'm hoping to have it land right when there's like the most question about our investment. So it's like, oh my gosh, here comes marketing, like right when we need it. So just remember, timing's everything.
Totally. All right. Well, we talked about content as a channel, but there's a question here around just messaging and tone. How do you sort of navigate not coming off as tone deaf or not coming across as like oblivious? I think we've all gotten emails. I think we've sent emails about, our company's response to COVID, maybe some special kind of programs. But how can we kind of balance this need to hit our target and then also come off with empathy?
I'm happy to take that one because it was kind of a big thing last week as we were quickly adapting. So for those who aren't sort of following Gong, shame on you. But if you are, then you know that we often use a lot of humor in our messaging, and we have this quirky brand personality. And I think that's extra challenging in times like this. What do? Do we just give up on being funny and quirky because it'll offend someone, or do we find a way of channeling that into something that's appropriate for the times? And we chose the latter. So again, you might have seen the example about a month ago. One of our emails on the privacy policy update, which is a boring email we all had to send. Our email kind of went viral on Twitter and LinkedIn because it was pretty darn hilarious with gifs of Britney Spears and stuff there. But obviously that would not fly right now. And it took us a couple of days early next week to come together as a team and decide what we want to do about this. And I'll admit we had a couple of days of being a little bit tone deaf and going out with the same types of posts that we had done before. But I'm super proud of my team because they very, very quickly found the new sweet spot of where to be. So no, we've not giving up. We're not giving up on humor. If you look at our invite for our virtual event, I'm pretty sure I made a toilet paper joke in there somewhere, and we're still going to continue doing those things. But we've drawn the borders. So there's no way I'm going to be using humor anywhere around the medical situation, because at this point, every one of us knows someone who's been affected or family who's been affected, and it is a global tragedy. So we're not going to try and lighten that part up at all, and we're just completely staying away from that area and humor. But we're all still humans. We all still need to lighten up our day. If you tracked my LinkedIn in the last week, you notice that every weekend I bake challah breads for my kids. They go to Jewish schools. Last week I baked a challah bread that was shaped like the coronavirus. And it actually, most people thought it was very funny, but back to the sort of marketing tone of voice, I'm proud that despite sending multiple emails and campaigns and keeping our social media as active as ever in the last week, we have received zero backlash on tone of voice or being tone deaf. And if you're on LinkedIn, you know that lots of brands are getting a lot of heat right now for being tone deaf. And I'm still getting daily really bad emails from SDRs that they're just using their templates from a month ago, and it looks so ridiculous right now, especially if they're talking to me about ramping up my hiring and onboarding new people. I mean, who's doing that right now? Why did that email go out right now? So if you haven't done so yet, just shut off your entire outreach or sales loft cadences for a minute. Take a look, review all the cadences, rewrite everything that needs to be rewritten. And going back to the first sentence I said in this call today, make sure you're giving your customers what they need right now. And that's definitely empathy, definitely not ignoring the situation, and figuring out where they need the help right now, and then keeping your personality. You know, I'm still going to make goofy jokes. Occasionally, they're not going to be appropriate, but just give your customers what they need right now.
That's great.
I have a suggestion also, which is like, how about you say what's actually on your mind as a company, as opposed to like what you think what type of corporate email you need to send out. Like, I think nobody has any answers right now, and yet there's a lot of emails coming out from brands that sound like a lawyer. It sounds like the same to me as when we all had to update our privacy policies in terms of service a couple months ago, but it's about coronavirus. Like, I would much rather send out an email from the CEO. It's like, hey, it's Dave. I'm the CEO of so-and-so, and holy hell, has it been a rough last month. I hope everybody's doing okay. Here's the precautions that we're taking. Like, I think in these times, like, the best thing you can do is really be authentic and human, because everyone in the world is being affected by this. And so to like to try to be real nervous about what you're going to say. Like the thing that we've been thinking about is like, okay, if I had to right now send an email to my mom to explain what was going on in life and business in the world and connect that, like, how would I just pull up my Gmail and like pop that in and send her that email? How close can I be to that tone when I'm actually reaching out to my customers? Like that's going to make all the difference in the world. And so like, we've been trying to get like our CEO out there as much as we can, whether that's on our podcast or just to have conversations together. Like, I don't think there's enough executives, especially like, you know, most of the people on this call are not like Fortune 100 CMOs, right? Like you can get away with a little bit more. And so I think the opportunity now is to be human, is to be real, and actually let that come through in your marketing, and go out to your customer base and say, you know what, we actually don't know what's going on right now. Just like you, I can't pretend like we have any answers here, but I can tell you what we're doing about it. And we're going to keep you updated regularly. And I think the biggest mistake you can make as a brand right now is not being real and human, but then also like, not addressing what's happening in the world. Like you can't be tone deaf to that sense. So you got to say what's actually on your mind.
I would encourage people to look at the video from the CEO of Marriott.
Yes.
Very, if you've seen that, it's very warm, very genuine, very direct. It's a fabulous, I hate to say fabulous piece, but it's a really, really fabulous piece.
And I think it's like the other thing is like all of our CEOs are doing this all the time right now. It's not just to our customer base. They're talking to the board, they're talking to advisors, they're talking to partners. And so like they have something to say. I would much rather say like, hey, on your drive into on your walk tomorrow, send me, like, hold your phone sideways and send me a 1-minute video of you talking about like how you're feeling right now and what's going on, because I want to send that out to our customers. Like that type of message to me would do so much better than these like standard, you know, like I don't even know how to describe them, emails that are going out. But like, don't be afraid to do that. That stuff works really well.
Yeah, I think there's something really powerful about that, and I think that's honestly why I really enjoyed this forum too, because no one here on this call is trying to sell anything. Like we're all just honestly letting our guard down and saying, here's what we're seeing and here's how we're thinking about things. So I definitely appreciate the need or the opportunity to just let our guards down to our customers and show more of our humanity as a brand. One thing that I think we're sort of having to balance with that is, but then we also need to sell. We also then need to get outreach cadences back up again. We need to rewrite it, but we need to get our BDR team productive. We need to get these other things happening. There was a note somewhere here in COVID, in the Slido about wartime versus peacetime. What's your take? How do you then come out of sort of empathy and that, or not come out of it, but like still be able to lead with empathy and being footed, having your feet firmly planted in like the reality of where we are from an economic perspective, let alone public health perspective, but then also drive demand?
This is Maria. I think this is a really important time as a CMO to understand your business. We're doing 3-day-a-week health checks with the CRO, the CEO, the CFO, and myself. So one, be a part of that conversation and understand what the priority is. Again, most of us are, that are on the call are tech, and so you have a recurring revenue model. So I think you have to understand how important really is this month number versus what you have to achieve long term, and understand when, where it really, where you have to put the pressure and when it's important. This is also, if there was a month that was going to slip, this is one that's going to be understandable. And so I think looking above just this month's number and having a perspective a little farther out is really important.
Another idea that we're also focusing on internally, if you're the type of business that a significant part of it comes from growth of your existing customers, this is a good time to focus on those customers. You already built a relationship with them, so you don't come off as predatory. And if there are ways that you can help them genuinely at this time, for example, at Gong, some of our customers have a field sales team that previously was not using Gong because our better experiences for inside sales team. And now that those field sales team are working inside sales, this was an opportunity for us to help them. And some of them came to us, some of them we were proactive and offered our help. And again, you don't have to monetize it today. You can say, hey, here are 30-day or 60-day licenses for free. We want to make sure that your team bounces back as soon as possible. We're here for the long term, and just focus on that customer love, because we all know the cliche, because it's true, that getting a new customer is way more effort than keeping a customer. So just focus on holding on to your customers and expanding with those first if you can. But even reaching out to new customers, as long as you do it in a genuinely helpful way. DG suggested content. I added to that, try a free product that they could use right now, and just worry about the monetization a little bit later. Maybe Q2 is going to be a bad quarter anyway for most of our businesses. Just use it for building pipeline and empathy and relationships, and then get back to the business as soon as you can after that.
I think it's like a extra magnification of actually just what good sales and marketing should look like today, because like empathy has got to be the number one skill of any marketer, even if there's nothing bad going on right now. Like I try to use empathy in the sense of like, well, we're not the only brand sending emails. So how am I going to try to sell to Udi if I know that I have 40 other SaaS companies also trying to sell to him? Okay, that's empathy, because I can think about what he's actually going to react to. So number one is empathy, because you need to understand that the last thing in the world people want to do right now is deal with your sales process, deal with your marketing process, and buy something from you. So if you can know that going in, then how are you going to change what you do? Like that's how I would be having that conversation with my team, right? The other thing is, like, it is 100% okay to sell, but now is not the time to be pushy and to follow up. Like, follow up is important, but not to the sense of like annoying and constant follow up. And so I think now more than ever, like being helpful, being empathetic, actually doing your research. Like there still are pains that businesses need to solve. And if you can show that you solve one of those pains, like you can earn the right to have that conversation. I also think like there's an opportunity to sell and rely on not having to get people on the phone, right? Could you look at my website and tell me 2 things that I'm doing wrong right now and send me a video of how that might look, and give away more value up front in the sales process, and I'm going to build more trust and actually want to talk.
That's great. All right, well, we've got 9 minutes left, and so I want to get to as many of these Slido questions as we can. This one's super tactical, but I think an interesting one. What are the field marketing people on your team doing right now? I know we've got, I know they're, first of all, it's just carrying the building the bridge from empathy. Many of you have had to cancel conferences that you were hosting this year, and that's incredibly painful, especially for the corporate events folks or the field marketers on your team. But I would imagine as you think about potentially bringing those on virtually, there are now are areas of overlap with the demand team or other folks that are running that. So how are you thinking, maybe just from like a people perspective, about keeping the field marketing team engaged and contributing to this kind of new reality?
Maria?
Yeah, so I know I mentioned that we have a lot of the team working on this one big event, but at the same time, we see all these other events going on. How do we join some of them? So this is more events than field, but I think it plays the same way. Our head of events is reaching out to every partner where there was an event scheduled and saying, hey, why don't you get something virtual going? I've already paid you, like, help me out now. They have the audiences we're looking for, and asking them to put on activations, like digital activations that we can join. It relieves some of our load. But we did very similarly with all the associations. We all pay a lot of money often to be a part of different associations, and we've reached out to all of them saying, what digital events can you put on that we can be a part of? And then those event marketers are managing those. And that's been a way to really save time, but get our fair share of voice. And what's great about that is it's benefited then the peers at those conferences or with the associations as well.
So at Gong, we have Danny, who manages all of our events. So we've shifted him now to manage, put together our virtual event, which is coming up, excuse me, in just a couple of weeks. He's also working with all the partners like Outreach and AAISP that are also putting on their virtual events that we are taking part of. So he's still managing all the events, only they all happen to be virtual right now. We got very lucky in terms of timing. We literally finished our Celebrate Road Tour in mid-February, just before this whole shitstorm exploded. So we got to visit 4 cities in February exactly as planned. We had record attendance. And our next big planned event that we had already committed to is way in October. That's going to be Celebrate SF. And we're lucky that I think except one contract we already signed, all the contracts with the venue and caterers and speakers are still open. So we are now editing those contracts to give us a 30-day way out if the situation doesn't get better by then and we have to turn the event virtual. Again, there is an unexpected upside to this in terms of budget, because if those big events end up being virtual, we're going to be spending a fraction of what we had planned, right? Because you don't need a big venue, you don't need the caterer, you don't need all the swag. The speakers are probably going to charge less because they're getting a lot less work right now. So there is an upside if you look at it from a budget point of view of just repurposing some of that. I know other companies were in difficult situations of an event that they had already spent pretty much all the money and had to back out of the last minute. So my heart goes out to you.
DJ, anything on your end?
I have none.
I have none either. I think, Gigi, we're both new to our roles, and Maria, I know you're new as well, but company's a couple stages along. So we're building field marketing and events, and so we're reallocating that role that we were going to hire for, and we're going to look to programs. So
I'll give you a quick story, which is we were on the verge of signing a contract. Like, we had a venue, we had all the budget. We were going to announce it, and then a day before, it was the day before, like, to me, at least in the US, was like the day that this went bonkers, was like that Wednesday when, like, the NBA got canceled. I don't even ever watch the news, and that was the first night that I was up until midnight, just refreshing stuff. And that next day, we just were like, there's no way we can, even though our event's not going to be until September, there's no way we can announce this event right now in the world and not come off as tone deaf. So damn, this really sucked. We just spent too much planning this, but we got to back out. So we were just going to do our event with the team that we have. We have a small team.
Gotcha. All right. Well, closing question with only 4 minutes to go. We might have to go a little rapid fire on this one, but what are your top priorities right now as you're thinking about where we go from here? I can start since I've had a few seconds to think about this. Let you guys think of yours. So first is really realigning our go-to-market around the opportunities we think we can go and tackle in Q2. And so, Front is a fairly horizontal platform. And so our ability to serve, folks, like I mentioned earlier, in the mortgage industry, banking, pharma, other areas that currently are buying today, we're trying to figure out how can we really build dedicated go-to-market there. Second is touching on Udi's point, marketing support of customer success. And so we're trying to figure out how we can have a more hands-on support role in driving expansion revenue, protecting our base, ensuring that our highest kind of ACV customers, our ARR customers, are feeling kind of the sense of affinity from value delivery from Front. And third, this was going to happen anyway, but we think it's a good time to remain course, is relaunching our brand and the content machine that we've been talking about. So historically, we haven't built that to the extent I think of what our ambition is, and we think there's no better time than to create a lot of valuable content to help folks navigate these crazy times. And I cheated and came up with 4. I was taking care of the team. And so making sure that the team in general feels supported as we're all working from home and as we're all navigating this personally in our personal lives from a mental health perspective. I love the emoji idea. Maria, I'm going to borrow that if that's okay. And just find different ways to really kind of pour into the folks that are making this whole thing possible.
For me, and literally an hour ago, I had a team leadership meeting to discuss this. Our number one priority this quarter is going to be, Q2 is going to be demand generation. To a large extent, our success in demand generation is what's going to determine the future of the company this year in terms of what other measures are we going to have to take to either scale or cut back on the business, depending on what the sales teams can close. And at Gong, about 80% of the pipeline is created by marketing. So we absolutely have that huge responsibility. We're going to be focusing on demand gen. We're fortunate to have built a really strong following on both LinkedIn and on our email subscription list. So we're going to tap into those and augment that with digital marketing, as I talked about earlier.
Great. Maria or DG?
Yeah, for me, again, for those who don't know me, I'm definitely a planner, and we had a very clear plan of what our integrated marketing calendar, that what are the themes, what are the things that we were planning to launch, and what are the activations around them, some of them events like we talked about, and obviously knowing the challenges with those. It's been looking at that and having something to work off of to say, hey, where are we going to make pivots, and making some of those decisions really quickly so the team can work towards the things that are going to make a difference. And I had given that one example of the study halls, and I think we'll keep doing that. I don't think, so one, I definitely don't have all the answers. We're still figuring this out every day, but making sure that the actions that people are taking are ones that are going to be usable, and that it's good prioritization, and that there's no time wasted, I think, is more important than ever. And so just making sure that we choose the couple of things that we are going to stick to and continue to drive towards them has been, I think, pretty useful to us.
Awesome. We're out of time. Yeah. You want to go really quick? Sorry.
I'm gonna host a separate session after this. Email me. No, I'm just kidding.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to our guests. Really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your take. I know we're all kind of figuring this thing out together. This has been recorded, and so I'm gonna get these up on CMOofficehours.com probably the end of this week. And then I'm super excited next week to have Megan Eisenberg from Trip Actions, Trisha from Drift, and Chris Kohler from Box. They're going to be on next week's episode. So thank you all, and have a great week.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah, Anthony, is this group chat available for, is that being archived? If there's some things we want to grab from there, but we haven't had a chance to do it while we're listening?
I believe it is being archived. If not, I'll copy it right now just in case. We're done.
Thanks.
Yes.
Stay safe.
Thanks, everybody. Yes, bye.